The Imam is the person who leads the prayer. The Imam has certain responsibilities. The Imam needs to firstly ensure that he has placed something in front of him. Okay, so if he is praying in front of a wall, then that is fine. Okay, but if there is a space between him and the wall, then he has a responsibility to put in front of him something called a sutra. Okay, so this is just some object. It could be a chair. It could be a tree that he stands in front of. But he has a responsibility to put something in front of him, and nobody should walk between the sutra and the Imam. The person who leads the prayer, it should be the person who is the most knowledgeable of the Quran. The person who knows the most Quran should be the one that leads the prayer. However, in situations where you are visiting somebody at their home, then the owner of the house is responsible for deciding who leads the prayer. Okay, so the homeowner, he can choose to lead the prayer himself. He can choose to delegate that responsibility to somebody else. But the right is on the owner of the home to decide who leads the prayer. And one should not, even if they feel they know the most Quran, it is not a right on them to automatically assume that they can lead the prayer. Similarly, if you are attending a masjid, then the Imam of the masjid would be the one that leads the prayer, unless he so chooses to delegate that authority to somebody else. So the choice of the person leading the prayer. The Imam is also responsible for making sure that the people in the congregation are lined up correctly. And the correct etiquette for how to line up in the prayer is that you fill up the first row first. So men are always lined up in front of the women. Women always pray behind the men. So you have the men at the front, you have the children in the middle, and then the women would go at the back. The front row should always be filled up first, and you shouldn't start a second row until the first row has been filled up. The number of people should be roughly equal on one side of the Imam, on his right side compared to his left side. And you shouldn't start a second row until the first row has been completed. The congregation should stand shoulder to shoulder, feet to feet, and gaps should not be left within the rows. The rows should be lined up straight. They shouldn't be going up and down. Close attention should be placed on ensuring that the rows are straight and not bent. So these are some of the etiquette in terms of things to watch out for before starting the prayer. If there are gaps within the rows, and let's say somebody had to leave in the middle of the prayer, they had to go to the bathroom, whatever, there can be certain emergencies, somebody needs to leave. In that situation, if a gap is left, then the remaining people in the congregation should try to fill in that gap. So even if you are in the middle of a prayer and you see that a gap has been created in the prayer, move. If the gap is in front of you, move to fill in that gap. If it's to your side, find ways of filling that gap. Even when you're in the middle of the prayer, don't let that gap remain unfilled, because shaitan will come between the gaps, and Allah creates love between the hearts of people when the gaps are closed. So these are some of the etiquettes. When there are a congregational prayer can be a minimum of 2 people. So if there are two people, the way to pray is that the person who is leading, the imam, would stand just a little, maybe half an inch forward compared to the person who is following. The imam would stand on the left-hand side, and the person who is following would stand on the right-hand side. If there are more than one followers, so if there are three people praying in congregation, the imam stands ahead, and then the two people who are following, or more people who are following, would stand in a line behind. But if there are only two people, you would not stand one person ahead and then the second person behind. That's not the etiquette. If you are joining a prayer that has already commenced, and let's say there were only two people that had started a congregation, and you are the third person that is joining, the etiquette is that you would just tap the follower. So if there are two people that are praying, they stand next to each other, and the follower stands a little behind the imam. So if a third person comes to join that congregation, they just lightly tap the back of the person who's following the prayer, and that person would move back, and the two people would form a line behind the imam. Alternatively, if there isn't space behind, then the imam can take a step forward. But that would be the etiquette of joining. If there is a larger congregation, then you just join that congregation, and you just join the lines. When joining a congregational prayer, the etiquette is that you join the prayer wherever the prayer is at. Okay, so if the prayer has already begun, you don't need to be concerned that the prayer has already begun, and can I join the prayer, can I not join the prayer? That shouldn't be a question. If the congregational prayer has already begun, you join the prayer wherever it is at. And the principle is that the rakats, or the units that you have missed, you make those up once the imam has said Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Then you stand up. You don't do the salam, but instead you stand up and you complete the number of units that you have missed. So how do you determine how many units of prayer have been missed? And the rule is the following. If you manage to participate in the ruku, okay, which is the bowing when one is in this position. So if you manage to participate in the ruku, then that means that you have got, it is counted that you have got that unit of the prayer. You've got that rakat. So if you get the ruku and you join the prayer before the imam says Sami Allahu liman hamida, okay, then that means you have got that ruku. Okay, so that you've got that. So even if you didn't get Surah Fatiha or the other verse of the Quran, as long as you got the ruku, that means you got that unit of the prayer. So then the number of units that you have missed, you just make those up at the end. So let's say if you miss, let's say it is the Asr Salah, okay, which is 4 units of prayer, 4 rakats. So if you miss the first 2 rakats, then when the imam does salam, then you stand up, you complete 2 more rakats, and then you do you sit in, you do the du'as, and then you do the salam. Let's say it is the Asr prayer, and you have only missed the first rakat. Okay, you got the second, the third, and the fourth rakat. Okay, you missed the first one. So then what you do in that situation is that you just stand up, you make the one more rakat that you have missed, and then you do the salam. That's easy.